Hello. That's a pretty intense intro. I don't know how many of the talks you've been to have lived up to that hype, but maybe I can try. Welcome, everyone, to Push, Pull, and Merge, lessons from a journey of growth through acquisitions. I have 40 minutes, so let's just jump right into it. What are we going to cover today? Well, I'll start with an introduction to myself and Apryse, then we'll quickly talk about why acquisitions matter. Next, learn a little bit about what happens before an acquisition starts, and then get into all the different areas that are affected by them, from how you work to what you work on and who you work with. And then with all that context, I'm going to try to tie it in a nice bow with some lessons learned and close us out. So if that sounds good, here we go. Who am I? Let's get intros out of the way. My name is April. I'm the DevRel manager at Apryse, and I've been working in software for over 10 years, starting my career as a consultant for a large consultancy, implementing asset management software at manufacturing plants around the world. This was a really great start to a career in software because it showed me firsthand the impact that software can have on the day-to-day lives of people in their working life. This was a really great experience, but after a few years of consulting, I transitioned to work directly for software companies, doing things like managing online communities, running an app marketplace, before transitioning my focus entirely to developer relations efforts. While consulting helped me appreciate the end users, I really realized that the product, it's only as good as the developers who build it. So enabling and empowering developers, making their lives better, is ultimately going to lead to a better end product. DevRel has been really great for me because I love connecting with people, I love making videos, hosting hackathons, and learning and teaching, which all the other things kind of give me a chance to do. Outside of work, my hobbies include playing games. I don't know if anyone has heard of the game Power Grid, but that is my favorite tabletop game. I love to go to concerts. I probably spend most of my money on that. I'm learning French, so dis-moi si tu veux parler avec moi. And also following Major League Baseball, which I'm sure most of you don't care about since we're in Europe, but it is the playoffs right now, so I'm pretty excited about that. And fun fact about me, I actually officiated an underwater wedding. And you might be like, what does that mean? And everyone looking at their phone now is going to look up at the screen and see a wedding in scuba gear. That's pretty crazy. If you want to hear more about this, you can stop by the Apryse booth later and I'll tell you the full story. So speaking of Apryse, let me give you a quick intro to the company. What is Apryse? Well, Apryse, formerly known as PDFTron, is a global leader in document processing technology for developers. So whether you're trying to implement a document viewer on the front end that allows your users to sign and collaborate, or you want to do bulk actions on the back end, like larger document generation or redaction jobs, or even if you want to add capabilities to your mobile applications like barcode scanning or document editing, you can do that with our suite of SDKs. We probably have something to help you achieve whatever your document-related goals are. One of the biggest reasons that we have been able to help over 20,000 startups, governments, and companies, including more than 85% of the Fortune 100 companies, is because we've continued to expand our offerings to meet your needs. And a big way we've done that, any guesses based on the title of the presentation? Acquisitions. That's right. So the Apryse acquisition story is actually something that I was really interested in while I was interviewing for the job, and a big part of why I'm doing this talk today, my own personal interest. So let me walk you through the acquisition timeline. PDFTron was founded in 1998, but the acquisition story really starts about 5 years ago. This timeline is going to show how we evolved from a PDF SDK company into a multi-product platform by bringing in specialized teams and technologies. So in 2020, we strengthened our PDF foundations with the acquisitions of BCL, which brought in advanced document conversion tools, Active PDF to strengthen our server-side PDF capabilities, and Iceni for their powerful PDF editing and transformation technologies. Then in 2021, we were able to expand expand our verticals with the help of PDF 3D, who brought in 3D PDF visualization for engineering and science use cases, Windward Studios, document automation and templating, and also Solid Docs with their enhanced PDFA and document validation tools. Then, in 2020, we really expanded our developer footprint and entered new markets. So I think some of you may have heard of a Belgian company founded about 60 kilometers away in Ghent. Well, that's iText, and we acquired them, and it was really a huge win because it added a major open source PDF library that already had global reach. This year, we also added PDFlib for high-performance PDF generation, Invest in Tech for PDF Office conversion and document extraction capabilities, and also EverSign, which strengthened our e-signature capabilities. Now, by 2023, we sort of outgrew the name PDFTron. So we rebranded our ever-growing family of companies and solution offerings under a new name, Apryse. We continued to make moves and keep growing by adding Copa with their Java-based PDF tools and Immuni, which strengthened our Windows native capabilities. 2024, we made another big leap forward, just one acquisition that year, but it was LEADTOOLS with their deep imaging, OCR, and medical document expertise, which helped us to continue to expand all of our use cases. And that brings us all to now. This year, we have scaled up with 3 acquisitions just this summer. Tall Components adding .NET PDF tools, Scanbot SDK expanding mobile barcode and document scanning as well as data capture, and Accusoft, which brought in additional imaging and document solutions. So to prepare for this talk, I actually interviewed a bunch of people at the company who have all come in from these different acquisitions, and I've taken all their insights to try and weave them into this presentation. Each of these acquisitions, it wasn't just about the tech, right? It's about the people, the culture, the expertise that they brought. And together, we've built something much bigger than the sum of the parts. So hopefully I've convinced you that we've got expertise and experience enough in acquisitions to share some lessons. But before we get into them, I just wanted to touch on acquisitions at a high level. So we hear about them all the time. Let me just pose a couple of questions. So raise your right hand if anyone in here has ever been acquired by another company. Okay, see some hands. Now keep them up. Raise your left hand. Oh, went backwards. Raise your left hand if you've ever acquired another company. I see one right there. Okay, so it does happen. It's pretty common. And one other question. So can anyone name any products that you used today that have been part of an acquisition? Anyone? Shout it out. Don't be shy. What'd you say? Scanbot? Anything else? Any other ideas? Okay. Well, I have some written down on a slide since people are a little shy here. So imagine your day today. You wake up at the hotel, grab your Android phone. They were acquired by Google. Send a text to your spouse on WhatsApp saying good morning. WhatsApp, of course, acquired by Facebook. Turn on some music on Spotify. They've acquired companies to help build their technology out, like Anchor and Megaphone. Maybe you put on your North Face jacket. They're part of a big VF Corp who owns a lot of brands, like also Vans shoes. Maybe you send your team a message on Slack just to say, hey, where are we meeting up later? Slack, acquired by Salesforce. You can hop into a Volkswagen or another car, maybe an Audi, a Porsche, Skoda, all part of the same group to make your way here to the conference. Say you really enjoy this presentation, so you want to meet me later for some Stellas. That's part of the global beer giant AB InBev. And then once you get back to the hotel later tonight, you can add everyone that you met today on LinkedIn. Of course, they were acquired by Microsoft. So you get it. They're a big part of the world that we live in and kind of the end user products that we use. But what happens to you when it becomes part of your working life? Let's start to get into some of the lessons that Apryse has learned going through it many times over the past few years. So I tried to do some funny Git things for all the sections. Hopefully you enjoy those. So before any deals get made, There's research. There's a due diligence period. How do you know where to start? Well, first you want to think about your goals. So as Global Director of Solution Engineering told me in our interview, we tried to build the best document processing SDK in the world. And to do that, we need to leverage the best technologies that are already built. I'll add to that we're also looking for the best people and the best companies that have built those technologies. So what are some of the things that Apryse has looked for in a potential acquisition? Well, when identifying a target, here are some of the main things. First, filling tech gaps. So companies that already have capabilities that we no longer offer that can fill a gap in our offerings. So this could be something like PDF 3D, which introduced 3D PDF rendering, or our Solid Docs acquisition with their best-in-class PDF to Office conversion. Companies that also have allowed us to expand our global reach. So whether that's a new geography or a new vertical. So for example, with the iText acquisition, they already had a really strong foothold in Europe, in Asia, and acquiring an established company can be some of the safest ways to enter a new market because they already know how they do business over in those markets. Companies with incredible talent and expertise. So the companies we acquire, they all have their own rich histories and incredible employees who have built them, bringing in not just tech, but people who know the tech, why it was built, how it was built, and also all the domain expertise inside and out, which is all extremely valuable. Also, faster innovation. So instead of taking years to build things internally, acquiring a company could really help to rapidly develop new features with the additional hands on deck and also capabilities that other companies are already working on that could be integrated. So our recent release of Spreadsheet Editor for our web viewer wouldn't have been possible without things that our LEADTOOLS team had already been working on. Of course, there's always the business side of things, right? So sometimes it could just be a play to increase our customer base, recurring revenue, or even just for things like traffic and SEO online. And then along with all of this, it's always looking at the bigger picture. Are there any complementary strengths that could create really great synergies? So for us, a good example is just starting to think bigger than PDFs. Now, that's from the acquiring side. So these are things you may be looking for. But once you've identified a target, and if you're at a company that's trying to be acquired, it's time for the target to prepare. So when talking to VP of Engineering, John Armenia, who recently joined us from Accusoft, he was giving me insights into just the amount of work that took, writing everything down, trying to put everything in a format that someone who knows nothing about your systems can understand. It's the business side of things, of course, but it's also documenting all the technical expertise, languages, frameworks, processes. Sometimes that was especially hard for smaller companies because you can imagine if you come from a 20-person company all working in the office every day, you don't necessarily write everything down all the time. So once all the pre-work is done and the acquisition happens, now what? It's done, the announcement gets made, and it's the early days of the acquisition. So from an employee's perspective, what does that look like? Well, the first thing is the announcement. And it could look something like you join the exciting company all hands up meeting, and then you immediately learn, oh, I work for a new company now. This is often a surprise for people because when the work is happening to make the acquisition, it's usually only C-level people or people who really need to know before it's a done deal. So the typical reactions from the employees is like, do I still have a job? Will I have to move? What's happening to the project that I've just been spending all of my time and effort on? Transparency and reassurance are really important for leaders from the beginning. It's important to be on the same page. Don't add to the confusion with different people sharing different messages. This is the chance to really set the tone and avoid losing people that you don't have to. The value of acquisitions often lies a lot more in the people and the teams than the tech itself. This part is something that can't be automated. It requires the personal touch, and that's something that Director of Engineering Khalil told me during our interview about how he helped his team as LEADTOOLS was going through their acquisition. He told me, I do believe that the leader has to set time with each team member, especially in those times when you get acquired or whatever, to make sure that the team members are heard and if they have any questions that they're answered. Even if the question is just, what does my future look like? It's much better to say, hey, we don't know at this point, and be open to any questions that they have. Encourage people to talk to you about anything. The biggest talking point is going to be something around, what's the plan? This is something, to be honest, we haven't necessarily been historically amazing at, but with each new acquisition, it's something we're getting better at. At the minimum, here are the focus areas that you want to think about when planning. So these focus areas of knowledge transfer, team structure, product strategy, and cultural onboarding, within each of these, basically you're trying to discover what's changing, what's not, and also decide, hey, who can we list as the go-to person to talk to about any questions? And this is a big situation of don't let perfect be the enemy of good. It's better to have some plan than none at all. So when building out the initial integration plan, it's considering how you turn the tribal knowledge into documented knowledge that can be easily shared, figuring out how team structures will work. Recognize that it's best to avoid splitting teams up, teams that already work well together. And also think about all the practical stuff like communication channels, tooling standardization, and sprint alignment. You're going to have to decide on the product strategy. Will the new tech be standalone? Will it be merged in? Or will it be sunset? And then also cultural onboarding to make everyone feel welcome. This is something we've been getting better at recently with having some of our leadership immediately go and visit new folks wherever they are. It's not going to be one size fits all, but you can build out a playbook with some bare minimums in place. So I'm going to break these 4 into 3 sections, and that's kind of process, product, and people. I'm giving people 2 boxes because that's the most important part. So let's start with process. I think of process as sort of the logistics of how work gets done. There are the basics, right? Like general communication tools. So this is the most straightforward thing. You need everyone to have access to the same tools that they can use to talk to each other. For us at Apryse, that's Slack, Zoom, and Microsoft 365. For a company, they're really going to want to eliminate as many tool redundancies as possible and also bring people on the same page. Another thing you'll probably have to consider is, hey, what do we do with all of our chat and email history? Is that something we can transfer over? Are we going to get rid of it? What do we do? Because there's a lot of rich insights that you can find in that history as well. So once everyone can talk to each other, then you need to actually organize your work. And this was actually a really interesting part in a lot of my interviews hearing about this, because each company that we acquired was at a different level of maturity within their processes in general. So for some smaller companies, sitting next to each other every day, going to have lunch, an ad hoc, hey, let's build this, is usually enough, and that's sufficient planning. But we also actually acquired some companies that were more advanced than we even were with their processes. So, for example, when I was talking to Matt and he was telling me about how, in terms of development process, Apryse actually adopted a lot of what we were doing at Windward. Windward was working with a fairly standard agile process, very broken down specific user stories, while Apryse was not quite there yet. So Apryse's standard Jira workflow now is pretty much a copycat of the way that Windward used to do it. Jira is an easy standard to use for tracking work, along with maybe Confluence for documentation, but a thing we found a little bit more tricky was when it came to repos. In one interview, the phrase came up, if it makes sense, we'll get you into GitHub. If it makes sense. So basically with some acquisitions, like for example, Eversign, they were already using GitLab, and they had as many repos as PDFTron's GitHub did. And since Eversign was becoming Zoto, an end user product that doesn't need to integrate into the Apryse SDKs, they decided to just keep their GitLab intact. Another example of processes coming together is in terms of the process when it came to our solution engineers going into sales and support calls. So before PDFTron SEs, they had a really great solutioning methodology. They would prepare for calls pretty well and do a lot of research before they came in to maybe an initial demo with a prospect. But after their calls, they basically just hit a checkbox in Excel and said, hey, we had a call. There was nothing there in terms of notes to help with future follow-up. Then LEADTOOLS, on the other hand, their SEs would kind of go into new meetings completely blind and just wing it while they were there, but they were really good about taking those post-call notes and figuring out what was happening. So being able to combine these two together, within a few months, it was a fully adopted system amongst all the SEs globally, and now they have full visibility into opportunities, can collaborate better with sales, can see all the history of any support calls or other things that have happened, and that can really help with renewals. So this is a great example of acquired companies bringing in some better process, but also the company acquiring being open to change and mixing things together. It can really have a huge impact. So process, communication, they're great, but you still need a great product at the end of the day. Managing one product roadmap is hard enough, but managing multiple product lines that have come from multiple companies who all have different ways of working, that can be really tough. So with each new acquisition, the decision has to be made. Is this something that can stand alone as its own product? Is there tech that can be merged into our existing offerings to make them better? Or should we sunset the product to focus our efforts on other areas? It's a really hard decision to make, and so you have to do an evaluation. I spoke with a couple of folks in our product management organization to learn more about their process for this. And one of the product managers, Jackson, he was telling me about the process that he developed to evaluate acquired product lines. So this was something we hadn't necessarily done for older acquisitions. He actually worked through a multi-year backlog in our portfolio to try and figure it out. And he came down to 3 simple questions. What does this tool offer that makes it unique? And what makes it different from Apryse? What makes users choose this out in the market? Why do they like it? And what revenue is tied to it versus the cost? Of course, there's always the money side of things. This is a really good starting point for determination, but then there's also some qualitative stuff too, actually talking to the customers. Jackson also told me about a customer who said, if you keep this product alive, I will personally pay for an engineer to be on the Apryse team just to support it. When you have a customer speaking of a product like that, it makes it really hard to make the decision of, oh no, sorry, we're going to sunset this. Seeing, how much love there is in the market, I really do not envy the job of a product manager, always having to rethink roadmaps, especially when new companies and new products are coming in. But once they do figure out the plan, have it in place, then it's up to you, the engineers, to actually make the magic happen. And a lot of that magic does really come from the different companies coming together. So some examples of innovations through collaboration recently. We recently released the spreadsheet editor for our web viewer that was made possible in large part due to tech that LEADTOOLS engineers were already working on. The Windward template designer and iText Ditto managers came together to help create Fluent, an end-user solution that simplifies the creation of reports and templates at scales. And then one of the funniest parts to me through all the interviews was hearing a lot of stories about engineers who wanted to get licenses to use a certain tool or product, but couldn't get approval for those licenses. And this actually worked both ways. So hearing from some companies that we acquired that they really wanted to use PDFTron but couldn't get approval to get the license, but then also hearing from Apryse engineers, like our recent Scanbot acquisition, hearing from an engineer, hey, we really wanted to use Scanbot, but we couldn't get approval for the license. And I guess their strategy was instead to just acquire the whole company. So it gives all the engineers access to all the different tools and technologies without having to worry about those licensing constraints. So the innovations, the company's success, all of this is built by the people. People are everything. AI can give you code, but it can't give you the team that built it. It can't give you the context, all the discussions that happened, the collaboration. It can't give you the reasons for prioritizing certain things over others, or why certain decisions were made. So retaining people is retaining all of that knowledge. And for those being acquired, now you're part of a bigger company and there's more resources, there's more career paths. Let's get into how the acquisitions affect the people who work for the companies. I mean, it can be really scary when you hear the news. As Eddie, the CTO of the recently acquired Scanbot, told me, I was excited, but at the same time, to be honest, I could not imagine what it actually meant for us. It means a lot of things, of course, and there's pros and cons. So for cons, of course, there's a ton of uncertainty. That kind of environment, it's not for everyone, and that's okay if it's not for you. It's also less intimate. Instead of having 20 people in the office together every day, you can go eat lunch, have a beer after work. Suddenly you're working with hundreds of people across multiple time zones, and it's a huge shift. And then also with more people, it can mean more bureaucracy, maybe less autonomy, but there's still a lot of big positives. An expanded network with people of diverse backgrounds and skill sets to work with. Gaining access not just to them, but also to much more tools and resources than you might have had before. You'll also be able to learn so much more with the opportunity to learn about new cultures, new markets, new products. And with all of this change and the larger company, there's also a lot of career growth opportunities. New roles opening up, new projects to work on, maybe potential teams to even manage. And it's good to keep an open mind about this when you're an employee, but for the leaders, it's also really important to reassure people. Talking to Max from Scanbot, he was telling me a lot about his concerns going into the acquisition when it came to this. He didn't want to lose people. He said, how can we make sure they feel valued, seen, they can bring their expertise to Apryse? His biggest fear was losing the brains behind it all because he knows the company and the product are nothing without them. So what can leaders do to help reassure their people? I could put a lot of bullets on this, but it all boils down really to one thing. Communication. You want to communicate early and often. Reassure employees about their job security, roles, expectations, and be transparent about things you know that are changing and things that are not. One thing that we started doing with recent acquisitions is actually having our chief people officer, our CTO, go over and spend time in person with the new folks right when they join, and then also following up a little bit later. As Raf, who came to us from iText, told me, I think psychologically it helps people to accept that it's a different reality now. So along with the transparency, it's also things like updating the branding around the office, sending out some new swag. That can help since it's a whole identity shift. But Raf also shared with me a lot about trying to convey the message that it's not about erasing the past. It's not about pretending it doesn't exist. It's about being proud and celebrating the history that brought them to that point. And really making clear, this is a new chapter now. Part of not erasing the past is to try and respect and retain teams. So as Director of Software Engineering Logan told me, having a good team, even if it's a small team, is powerful. Splitting up a good group is really a drag. Being able to take a team that already knows how to work together, they already trust each other, they've already accomplished hard things in the past, when you keep them together, it supercharges their ability to tackle that next challenge. So Logan told me a lot about how he's always found you should never assign people to a product, you should assign them to a team and assign the team to work on whatever you need them to be working on. So especially in an environment where things are changing all the time, this can be a really helpful approach. So the team thing, that's powerful. Another great thing leaders can do is just highlight how the larger org will unlock new opportunities. So when talking to Ian, he was telling me about how we have the capabilities now. We have resources that we would have never been able to access before. It's not just the additional resources, right? It's those additional career growth opportunities, internal transfers, mentorship, professional development. It's a great area for those who have already been part of acquisitions also to be able to share their experience with the new people coming in. The old acquisitions know what it's like to go through it, and they've also had a chance to experience what's possible in the context of the new and larger company. And also can share all the things that they wish we had done when we acquired them back then. Like the learning opportunities, as Conrad put it, when we do purchase these companies, it creates a lot of learning opportunities for us. Invest in onboarding, knowledge sharing, set up points of contact, structured onboarding, documentation, do interviews, take the time to really foster connection and collaboration, facilitate cross-team introductions, in-person meetings when possible, and intentional collaboration across all the different departments and geographies. I think this is really where you'll get the biggest return on investment. I mean, the most common thread through all of the interviews was just how important people are. I think Aaron may have said it best. I think we've gotten more out of the people than the technology. The tech, it's something important, of course. It's something you look for. It's maybe why the acquisition happens. But with the people, Aaron also kind of said, you kind of luck into somebody who has fit into a role, has a lot of experience, without you having to necessarily look for that person or even have to have an idea that the person is out there or know that that's who you're looking for. So I hope you've taken away my main objective, which was telling you in the world of ever-evolving tech and AI, people are still the ones that matter at the center of it all. So let's recap and close out. What have we learned today? If you find yourself in a similar situation to us where there's a lot being added to your company, be that people, product, process, try to keep the following mindset. There's all this new capability coming in. There's all these new people. How do we shape this to be the best? Really perfect transition quote from Matt to bring us to the summary. How do we do it? Key takeaways. People and culture are as important, if not more, than the technology itself. You're getting new expertise, new relationships, new ability to innovate. And since it's teams and not just individuals, they already trust each other and can be given new goals to move really quickly. Integration has to be intentional and also empathetic. It's not going to be one size fits all. Success will depend a lot on intentional planning and communicating those plans. Some products and teams may merge, others may stay independent, and still others may be sunset. If you know it's time for something or someone to go, don't drag it out. Make sure it's empathetic for the humans that are behind these losses. And this could even be the loss of the in-office small startup culture. It's always good to frame the positives as well. Think about how diversity of experience and best practices really helps to drive innovation. Bringing together different teams, tech, processes, it's going to spark new ideas, new solutions, not just for products, but also best practices within the company that can improve how the whole thing works. Part of adopting the new innovations is going to be learning to adapt to cultural differences and being flexible. But being flexible does not mean you can neglect transparency. It's a non-negotiable aspect. Employees need clear, repeated communication about roles, job security, and the company's new vision. Leaders' openness and personal touch will make a really big difference. Finally, just remember, humans make things messy, that's for sure, but also great and also better. Growth is messy. Embrace the nuance of it all. It's not going to be clean. It's probably never going to be fully complete, but the sum of the parts will all be better. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I really enjoyed putting it together. If you're interested in learning more about Apryse, asking me any questions about the underwater wedding, or anything else, please stop by booth 19 to visit us. We're also doing a raffle giveaway. We'll be doing the drawing tomorrow at 11:30. It's a portable 4K monitor. I actually have the exact same one and I love it. So this is why I suggest that we give it away as a raffle. So just visiting the booth, you'll get an entry to the raffle, but also everyone that has attended here, you'll get an extra entry for joining me today. So come down if you want that extra entry to the raffle. Thank you.